What's up, you guys? This is Rob from The Gay Guy Plays, and today on The Daily Grind, we're going to be chatting about a very sensitive topic. Yes, today we are tackling true endgame, as well as my suggestions for some bite-sized endgame gameplay. Now, in my previous video, I definitely felt like I made a lot of friends. There's a lot of positivity in the comment section. However, today I feel like it's gonna be a little bit of a different story. I can already feel people leaving as it is. You know, I'm gonna lose some friends today, but it's okay. I'm prepared for you to hit the unsubscribe button. It's all right by me because I've got some very, very strong opinions that I have stuck by for the longest time about Endgame and what it is and what it isn't. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say it now. I do not believe that endurance runs are Endgame, nor do I believe that DE should be rewarding people more for endurance runs. Okay? Have you gone yet? No? Okay, you've hit the thumbs down button, but you haven't unsubscribed yet. Okay, let's keep going with this then. When it comes to endurance runs, I definitely feel like endurance runs are a choice. They are not end game. And the thing about them is I think they're fantastic if you want to go ahead and test your skills. In fact, previous to this, I had a series called 60 Minutes Later, where literally I didn't turn on the camera until 60 minutes into a MOT survival. And basically what I did is I showed you the mechanics and the techniques to be able to go 2 hours plus into end game missions. However, I'm going to be honest with you. After doing them, I quickly got so utterly bored because endurance runs, again, are not endgame runs. They're perfectly named as endurance. And to me, I didn't have that endurance. I'm getting old. I got a small bladder. I got to use the restroom. I got other shit I got to do. My eyes are getting tired and red and bloodshot. I'm not trying to do that to myself, okay? But the thing about it is, with those endurance runs, for those of you who know how the game works, it's more about abusing. I won't even say abusing. It's utilizing mechanics to make things easier for you and to make enemies easier to kill. So when you know those mechanics, it's not very hard to replicate over and over and over again. However, replicating them over and over and over again gets absolutely boring and just drains your brain completely. The way that I like to put it is kind of like, if you got a job, you ain't getting paid more for the first hour than you are for the second hour, the third hour, the fourth hour, the fifth hour. You're getting paid the exact same rate. And the thing about it is, for DE to kind of introduce scaling rewards, what that does is encourages people to literally have the life sucked out of them. And I was like, that's not good for the game, that's not good for the health of the community, because you're promoting specific strict metas so that you can go into those long duration runs. And basically what that does is it just burns out the community faster. So for me, I'm like, you clocked in, you know, for the first hour and you were feeling fresh and good. You know, the second hour, you were feeling kind of hungry. The third hour, you were feeling kind of hungry and you got irritated. The fourth hour, you were feeling kind of hungry, kind of irritated, and kind of tired. You don't have to be there for 4 hours. Don't encourage people to be hungry, irritated, and tired. Just give people what they want straight out of the gate. Difficulty and good rewards to go along with that difficulty without the wait. Alright, and what this does is you can spread it amongst different game modes instead of just survival and defense, you know, the popular kind of like endurance mode runs. Now you can have people go into different mission types, experience those different mission types, and have endgame rewards that go along with it, and have it come faster instead of sitting there, because let's be real, if you've done an endurance run, that first hour isn't necessary. That whole first an hour of your life is just wasted on that first hour because everything's still kind of easy. Really, it only starts picking up at like 45 minutes to like an hour and 15. That's where things start to get juicy and you can kind of tell where your build is wrong or where your build is right. So for me, a part of me is just like, these endurance runs, they don't do anything special other than just sap you dry. So I figured that I wanted to go ahead and introduce high-skilled variants of different mission types in the game. And what's the word I want to say? Oppose? Impose is the word, thank you. Some very strict rules and guidelines to them. So first, straight out of the gate, for these high skill runs, or these lethal runs, whatever you want to add to them, whatever names you want to put there, is high levels instantly. Don't make us wait to go against level 100 enemies like on the third round of a sortie. No thanks. Can we have those straight out of the gate? So give us level 100 straight out of the gate, even level 150s, maybe even level 200s if you want to do them. And then, and this is going to be controversial, I want either 1 to 0 base revives. If you've got arcanes in, fine, those arcanes can add into your revives, but legitimately, like very little to no revives, because the thing is, these are supposed to be high skilled runs, right? Which means you should be a high skilled player, which means that you should be able to use cover, you should be able to use mechanics, whatever it is that you need to do to survive, you should be able to do that, whether it's spamming CC, whatever. So I'm saying high skill run strategy, high levels, very low revives, and you got to figure out what's going on there. So the first one that I wanted to go ahead and introduce, of course, is Exterminates. Now this one is very simple. I want to put them on a timer, and I want to make that timer like 5 minutes, but you got to kill like 200, 300, maybe even 500 enemies within a 5-minute timer. And if you don't kill all 500 enemies, or 250. Let's just make it 250 so some people don't get daunted. And remember, these are high level targets. These are like 100 plus level targets. Within 5 minutes, you fail the mission, you get no rewards. And that's what I mean by high skill play. It's like you have to understand how these missions work, and you have to be able to take them out quickly. Again, you get the challenge straight out of the gates. You know, you get to take on the big bad enemies straight out of the gates, no rushing, and get it done in 5 minutes. And if you can do that, then you've proven yourself to do something great. I know it's very similar to ESO, but don't worry, we're gonna move away from that move as we go forward. But again, this is very intensive, and of course the rewards should reflect that. Now, what the rewards should be, I don't know. Maybe you should be limited to these high skill runs, so like 2 to 3 times a day, and they've got arcanes on them or something. I'm really, maybe like high amounts of endos, maybe even chances at legendary cores, something along those lines. Just something that is very rewarding for the endgame player. Now let's move on to interceptions, and this is where things get juicy. I want them to be limited to like 4 rounds. And keep in mind, you guys can also chime in, but the thing is, you have to be forced into those 4 rounds. Just like I'm gonna say for like survivals, you have to be forced into a 20-minute survival. Like, it's something that you need to go into for sure. But the thing is, in addition to the high level of enemies and very low revives, you have to be able to hold all points with only 1 point loss per round. So that means that the enemies only capture back 1 point every single round. All right, so that's one of the things that I want to put out there, and maybe even put a drain, maybe even put some kind of drain on. No, that's too much. But anyway, yeah, just make it like that, and if an enemy does manage to capture a point, boom, you failed the mission, you have to start all over again. Again, it's high risk, high reward. With mobile defense, all defense points must survive, and each point only takes 3 hits to kill. Because, you know, we've all been there, we've done it on normal defenses too, where we literally just let one person live at the end of the round and let the let the defense pod's HP go back up, right? I want this to be, you know, imposed on defense and also mobile defense. You got 3 hits and you gotta last a certain amount of time. In mobile defense's case, you gotta do it through all three, what do you call this? Defense points, and on defense, you gotta last for, what, 20 waves. So that's kind of like one of those things that does involve skill, because number 1, you can't die. Number 2, you're gonna be fighting much higher level targets straight out of the gate. Sabotage. Now this one I thought was really gonna be interesting, because sabotage missions always occasionally have a timer after you've destroyed the sabotage portion. But this time around, instead, it's going to be the timer starts from the second that you get in. You gotta rush that sabotage point, but once that sabotage point is destroyed, remember, you got one revive, maybe even 0, depending on how savage y'all want to be with this. But after that, you got traps. And every trap is a one-hit kill. Like, you know those bitch-ass arc traps? You know the little explosive mines, right? I'm saying you gotta get to the end of the level within that 5-minute timer, right? And not die because of all of those traps. So kind of mix that up, and I was almost thinking that would be the same for Spy, like any trap that you encountered would instantly kill you and fail the mission. And that's the thing that we don't see a lot of, is mission fails, right? DE is very, very light on that feels bad moment, but I feel like if we're talking about real end game, it has to be something you can actually fail, because there are so many missions out there where you're really not failing anything. If you've got a survival and your survival is going to shit, you just leave. You didn't fail the mission, you just left early. Speaking of survivals, I'm saying 20 minutes, high-end enemies, no life support towers. For those of you guys who didn't know, way back in the day, we actually had the first version of survival that was actually launched is you only got 5 life support towers, period. AKA you got your 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and then you could pop one and they would not send any more. They were like, you got these 5 and that's all you got. So I was thinking of something along those lines, very similar to here, where it's just your kills per second that is gonna keep you alive. And of course, you're gonna be forced in there for maybe 20 minutes. Of course, and you guys need to understand all of these numbers are arbitrary. Like, I'm not a person who will sit there and do balance passes and do number crunching and say, well, if they kill this amount of enemies in this run, blah, 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 this would equal that. No. I'm just giving like a skeleton framework for how this should work. And what I thought would be really, really interesting too is rescues. Random rooms get locked down and you have to hack terminals in order to open those. And your rescue target dies in 3 hits. Does not regenerate health. Just I know. Listen. So what I really wanted to kind of impose and like upon you guys is the thought process of we can have difficult runs that aren't 2-3 hours long. We can have that kind of gameplay with just a little bit of tuning into the mechanics that already exist in the game. I know there's nightmare mode, but let's be real, nightmare mode isn't something that many of us really think is all that of a nightmare. And at the same time, we also have sorties. And sorties only really get good on the 3rd sortie. I know that there are a couple like randomized trap things that make things exciting, and maybe they could go ahead and introduce that into high skill runs as well. I don't know. But what I would like to see is I would like to see challenge instead of endurance. Because just because you can endure something for a long period of time doesn't necessarily mean that you're a skilled player. Right? It just means that you know how to game the system. And the thing is, if you want really good rewards, you shouldn't have to wait for it for 2 hours, 3 hours long. We shouldn't be looking at those to try to ramp up how much we get. Can't we just have a lot straight out of the gate and just be rewarded for the fact that we're good players? Instead of players, you know, who know how to pee into, you know, big bottles. Okay, so hopefully you're still here. Hopefully you haven't raged. I'm sure that you're already at your keyboards already. But what I would like to, I guess, encourage you to do down in the description box below, not description, comment box below, is I want to know, okay, if we're going to do high skill runs, if we do high levels straight out of the gate, low to no revives, what variations would you like to see of the other mission types? I was thinking, you know, hijack could, you know, have very, very few hits to it. Maybe defection, you couldn't get, you know, you couldn't lose a single troop or something like that. Something along those lines. Let me know of your feelings of those down in the comments below. And also at the same time, what kind of rewards would you want to see for Endgame? Should we have a whole new reward system, or should we just up the rewards that we're currently getting? Toss all of that in the description box below. Don't get too crazy with me. Listen, I would rather you unsubscribe than leave a dumbass comment. So make sure your comments aren't dumb, okay? Think them out. Regardless, that about does it for me for now. And as always, love somebody, hurt nobody, and touch your body. For those that are still remaining here. Regardless, I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.